Welcome back to the culture of currency. Today we're getting into something a little bit different. As you can see laid out here, we've got our silver, but we also have a notepad, which is somewhat unique to what we're usually doing here. I would like to make this video because I've been stumbling around the internet, as we often do, and I find a lot of people who are wanting to basically get out of silver and gold because of I guess their position within the metals and how they feel like that process has been. And I will tell you, I am absolutely not traditional in my approach when it comes to stacking. It really is not what anybody I have seen does. And so I wanted to bring that out and show you what I do, bring that to you. And the reason is because I financially have been fairly successful in what's going on. And I hate fiat, but that doesn't mean that I have to put 60% in silver or anything like that. So because I have done something that has been rather successful, I want to share that idea with you. Not to say that you need to do it, because I'm not a financial guy. I just understand basically research and all of that, and have gone through many platforms and methods to figure out what truly does work, where the math works, where the laws work, and then am using a little bit for the fun that we love in these shiny things. So we're going to go over that, but do know that my reason for doing that is because I care so deeply about all of you, and and that's genuine. And so when I see somebody who is in a financial situation because they didn't do research or whatever it happens to be, I'm not here to bash. I'm here to just offer hopefully a little bit of what I've discovered to be true for me. And if it works for you, great. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. Find something that does. And I 100% pray for your success. Like that to me is the most important thing. One shoe definitely does not fit all in finance. So that being said, I want to make this as general as possible by using fairly round numbers so that the layout that I provide makes most sense, because hopefully the clearer I am, the better you will understand. But I will tell you, for me, it has worked phenomenally. I don't really stress about money. I'm a school teacher. I'm going to tell you that too. I don't make a ton of money, but I could retire today, and I'm in my 30s. And I have not done anything crazy. I'm not a Bitcoin. I don't do anything that a 65-year-old probably doesn't do. So do know that what I'm talking about is probably maintainable and achievable for a lot of people, as long as you have time as an aspect of that. If you're 70 years old, what I'm telling you very well could help you, but it probably is not going to be tailored to you, if that makes sense. So I'm sorry for rambling. Let's go ahead and get into it. But let me tell you how I started. So came out of college with debt. Wife came out of college with debt. And obviously we hate fiat. Fiat currency is a big thing for these stacker folk, as we know. And so if you hate fiat, you have to also hate fiat when it works against you, which is the word debt, right? When you have fiat currency that is also riding inflation and is compounding in interest, your debt position is not a good thing. And so when I look at research that tells me who is the best when it comes to assessing debt, leveraging debt, and the model where we create the most people that are financially free, I know this is a cuss word, but the honest truth is that would be Mr. Dave Ramsey. And so that's what I followed in my early days, and in many ways still do. So in his basically layout, we would have 7 steps. The first step would be to save $1,000. So if we have $1,000 in our emergency fund, that would be step 1. And I've already done basically all of these, and so I'm just going through them with you, and then we'll get to the meat of the video. So you have $1,000. Everything else that you take in pays off debt. So step 2, pay debt. And that's until you are debt free, okay? So hopefully that doesn't take more than a couple of years. If you're really deep into it, that means you live on beans and rice, as he says. I can go way, way more in depth if you want to email me, that type of thing. Step 3, which is a very critical step, 3 to 6 months of income in what we call an emergency fund, right? So if you have a washer and dryer that goes out, it just pulls from this. So you never, hopefully at that point, have to pull into a credit card or anything where you're leveraging debt again, right? Because you've paid off debt, you decided that's stupid. And at the same time as 3, we have 4, which is 15% of your income, and that's going to be going into retirement. So some type of retirement account, right? Then we have 5. Sorry about my sloppy handwriting. I'm just trying to write fast. 5, which this is an option depending on kids and that type of thing. College fund, as we know, college is ridiculous. It's kind of stupid at this point, and it's expensive. So will that even be a factor when, young kids go to college? I don't know. Number 6, very simple, pay off mortgage. And number 7, build wealth and give. So, step one is 1,000. 2, pay off debt. 3 to 6 income. 4 is 15% retirement. 5, college fund. 6, pay off your house. 7, build wealth and give. Right. So that's where we're sitting at right now with Dave Ramsey. So let's tell you what that looks like in a very, very easy way. So let me push my paper down here. Bring up the eye candy for you. If me and my wife, to make a round number, make $10,000, right? This is exactly what I have done and how I have done it, right? The numbers are shifted off differently, but I wanted to use a very, very round number. So let's say $10,000 is what we bring in. And I'm going to use something like water as a way to kind of get into this. If this is the waterfall, my income, and it's pouring $10,000 a month. So my wife makes $5,000, I make $5,000. And that income comes down into our first bucket here. And it fills this bucket. This first bucket, as we just saw, is going to be we've already paid off all our debt. It's going to be our 3 to 6 months of expenses, right? So if my expenses, for all sakes and purposes, let's say it's $5,000, right? And this doesn't mean, TV bill, all of the nice fancy dinners. What this means is if both of us lost our jobs and we went to bare bones where we're paying for our mortgage, our electricity, heating, that type of stuff, food as cheap as possible as we get through this. So let's say that's full. So if we had 5 months, because that's in between 3 and 5, times 5, we have 25K. So when that's full at 25K, the water overflows and goes to the next set of buckets, right? So we have our retirement bucket next, which is 15%. So with $10,000, that's $1,500. And this is where it gets interesting. I'm going to show you how that's, $1 million easily if you do this correctly. And then we have more that's overflowing because once this is full, that's a lot of money going in other places, right? We have another bucket, which is going to be kind of a combo here. And this is going to be our mortgage or mutual funds. And then we have things like metals. And there's sound reasoning for this. So I know this is kind of sloppy, but let's say I have my 15% in retirement, and I was lucky enough to start that at 29 years old with a Roth IRA. Roth IRA grows tax-free. So I started with $1,500, and you can type in these numbers at any Roth IRA calculator and get the same results. So I started with $1,500 and I put $5,000 away annually. That means it's $416 a month, and basically retire at 65. If I go with an 8% rate of return, which is a lot less than what my portfolio shows, I'd be at a 25% tax bracket. I would be at almost $1 million, $957,000 to be exact, and I would only invested about $165,000. So that would be the growth in the Roth IRA. If I were then to go around and get a 401k with my business as well, and have a $120,000 salary between my wife and myself, so that's that $10,000 a month, and both of us were to put 15% of that into investing with no raises, from 30 to 65 years old with an 8% return, we would have combined contributed $630,000, but the balance would be over $3 million. So that being said, retirement is a huge factor, and that's because of time and compound interest. And that's the one thing that, we talk about with silver, that silver cannot do. Silver cannot compound. It is great for so many things, but compound interest, as Einstein said, is the eighth wonder of the world. And so if we want to have fiat work for us the way that we're trying to hedge inflation, one way to do that is to have compound interest. And so that's why I have many things that provide compound interest. And that's the cool part. The number with the retirement and the 401k happens also with the mutual fund, with the exception of anything you take out that is income, will be taxed as income above what you put in. So if you do the exact same thing as your 401k, you could have $3 million. But yes, if you took out anything above the original 630, that would be taxed income, and you want to do that selectively so that you are not in a different tax bracket, so on and so forth. But it really does help, because let's say you have $110,000 in your mutual fund and your car dies, you can go write a check for $60,000 for a nice car and not feel a thing. You can snap your fingers and go on vacation and not feel a thing, right? Especially if your mortgage is paid off, because that's the cool part. When you have $10,000 coming in a month and you get to decide where every single dollar goes, that's freedom. So how does that work with metals? Which, sorry, I wrote a lot of M's in here. So let's say this is metals. If I have a lot of money running around and I want to invest in metals, what I would honestly recommend is that you never go more than 10% of your net worth. And the reason being is that all of the other stuff that's growing so quickly, and real estate's another great option, because when you have value of a house that's going up in value and you have monthly income coming in from the renting, that's great as well. Nothing bad about that except for humans, tenants with cats and things like that. But yeah, if you have 10% in metal, so let's say you have a net worth of $1 million, and let's say one of those crap hit the fan moments happens. Well, what happens to this is usually, as many of you describe, it will go up in value, right? So let's say it does. We haven't seen it, but let's say this goes up to $100 per ounce, like many of you think it will. Well, then that 10% that you have in your investment portfolio will shoot up quite a bit and be just enough. In fact, it'll be a lot more than you need to ride out the financial situation, because that's the other thing. History tells us that from trough to trough, when the market goes down, on average, it's less than a year. And I think one of the biggest was around 13 months. So if you can have enough of this to last you 2 years of your annual income, then you're in a good shape, right? So if that's 10% of your net worth, that's great. So let's say your net worth is $1 million and you have $100,000 in metals. Crap hits the fan, that $100,000 is now valued at, let's say, $300,000. Let's say it's tripled. well, then that's more than enough to get you back on your feet till the market's level again. And then once again, you can start pulling back in and buying more once markets have leveled again. So it has worked out successfully for me. It's just something that I wanted to bring to you, but that is where I'm at. If you like it, great. I hope it helps you out. It might not, who knows, but I thought I would bring that out to you because it has been extremely successful for me. I'm actually seeing about a 12.6 rate of return as far as percentage goes, and that is with crappy markets with COVID and all of that as well. But that's just where I'm at currently. I've got my kids' college funds with more money than they're going to need, and I only spend $100 a month on silver because, as you know, in this channel, I like it as a hobby. The world bullion coins, however, I did start my $100 challenge in generic to compare them over time, so that'll be interesting to see which one does better over time financially. But regardless, my goal is to one day, with $100 a month, put myself in a position that many of you are aspiring to do, to give you hope to say with $100 a month, I was able to do X, Y, Z. So that is what I have. I hope all of that makes sense. I'm sorry if I rambled or talked too much, but this is the machine that I made, and it has definitely been very beneficial for me. Get out of debt, because fiat works worse for you when there's compound interest, but it does work really, really well for you when the interest goes towards compounding in your favor. And then you can go out and really, really pour onto the metals that you love in a way that makes sense, so that when crap hits the fan, it goes up and you don't have to touch a thing in your other areas. So that is what I have. Sorry if this was crazy and rambly, but I appreciate you, and I hope you remember to stay classy and current with the culture of currency.